Hi there, welcome to the Vastrap Kitchen. This is part of my series of videos showing you how to bake a sourdough country loaf. The notes for this recipe are on my blog at Vastrap Farm on WordPress. The link to that is in my Instagram profile, so please go and download that if you need further information. But I am also loading all the videos on Instagram TV. So in my previous video, I showed you how to do starter maintenance. Again, I'm not showing you how to actually make a sourdough starter at this point in time, because I think a lot of you are already doing that or have already done that. This is more about the actual baking process and what to do once you have a starter or you've got a starter from a friend. So today, the first step in baking your sourdough loaf is that you have to get your sourdough yeast, or the natural leavening agent that you're going to use to make your bread rise. You have to prepare that so that it's at its optimal point and in activity when you use it in your bread dough, when you mix it into your bread dough. So what we do is we take our sourdough starter or culture that we've been nurturing every day, feeding once or twice a day, getting nice and strong and active. We take that starter and we mix a leaven. Now the leaven is exactly the same thing as a sourdough starter, because all it contains is a little bit of sourdough starter, some flour and water. So they are the same thing, but we use two different terms to distinguish the fact that once you're making a leaven, you are doing it with the purpose of making a bread, of actually baking a bread with it. So a leaven is typically a larger quantity of starter than what you would typically do on a daily basis. I like to keep my daily starter maintenance quite small, so I only feed with 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water, so that the discard that I accumulate over time is not so big. But when I'm making a leaven for a bread, I need 200 grams of leaven for a recipe that contains 1 kg of flour. So, and that will give me two loaves of bread at the end of the day. So it's obviously I'm making it specifically for the bread, and I'm also timing when I'm going to be able to, I'm making it in order to ensure that the timing of when I'm able to mix my dough fits in with my daily schedule. So a lot of people would do this the night before they want to bake. So just before you go to bed, you can mix your leaven and it'll be ready in the morning at say 7 or 8 o'clock when you have free time and it's a good time for you to bake. Or you can do it mid-morning so that you can mix at around 5 p.m. in the afternoon, 4 or 5 p.m. and put the bread in the fridge overnight in order to bake the next day. So there are lots of different combinations of how you can do it, but you kind of have to work back from when you want your leaven to be ready to when you actually mix it. Okay, so the actual mixing process is very simple. It's pretty much the same as in the previous video. I like to use this little bowl. This little bowl is great for 200 grams of leaven. It's just the perfect size and it's got its own little lid, but really you can use any bowl and cover it with a wet tea towel or with Glad wrap or anything like that. So again, I'm going to take my scale, put the bowl on the scale, set it to 0. And what I like to do is 50 grams of leaven with 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water. That'll give me 250 grams of leaven at the end of the day. I'll use 200 grams of that, and then the 50 grams that are left over will become my new starter, or I can use that, accumulate it in a jar in the fridge and use it to bake flapjacks or pancakes or anything that I like to do with my sourdough discard. Banana bread's very, very popular at the moment, and it's great to add the discard to a banana bread recipe. I even put some in my pumpkin fritters the other day, and it was great. So there's a lot you can do with your sourdough discard, but one also wants to keep wastage to a minimum. So you kind of want to make roughly the amount that you need to use. So I'm going to put 50 grams of this starter into my bowl. I fed this last night, so it's beyond its peak, but still good to use. You don't want it to be a complete liquid kind of sour mess. You want it to be still relatively fresh. This is about the last time of the day, or the latest in the day that I would use it. Okay, so that's about 50 grams of starter. Then I zero my scale again and add 100 grams of flour. Now I'm using stone ground Eureka white bread flour to do this. I tend to not mess around too much with my starter and my leaven. I just do straight white leaven and white starter. But really you can do whatever you want to do. If you want, depending on the flavor profile you're looking for. If you use rye flour, just be aware that it is more reactive than other flours, so your leaven might be ready more quickly. Okay, so I've got my 100 grams of flour, and now I need 100 grams of water, which I sillily didn't measure out. And I want it to be around 26 degrees, this water. I want it to be nice and warm because my room temperature is not that warm, and I want my leaven to be ready within a reasonable time frame, say 6 to 8 hours. It's about 29 degrees, but it'll very quickly settle back down to room temperature, so it's fine. So 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water. Okay. That's in the bowl. Lighting's bad, you can't see. And now I'm just going to mix it all together. And you can mix quite vigorously, just to incorporate some air, because obviously the bacteria and the yeast like getting some air. So when you mix your leaven, they're now getting a nice injection of flour, water, nice warm water, and some nice air, and now it's really going to get going. Okay, that's what it looks like. There are no real bubbles at this point in time. They'll develop over time. And I'd say that would roughly double in size now. I'll check on it through the day. I'll check on it after about 6 hours. If it's looking nice and bubbly and alive, I might use it then, or I might leave it a little later. The window period for using it will be about 2 to 3 hours at the moment, because it's not so hot. My kitchen's about 21 degrees, so there is a bit of a window period. In summer, when it's much hotter, your window period will be a little bit narrower. I'll try and show you. It's, yeah, just like that. Okay, so the other videos of how to then use your leaven and how to do the mixing are already on Instagram TV, so I'll share those links as well, and then I will also do one on how you bake the bread. Happy baking, bye!